Good evening and a very warm welcome to everyone here. I'm Naveen Joshua, representing Green Honchos. Um, sorry, we got an exciting prospect here. Through the day, we've been talking a lot about the emergence of D2C for retail, um, e-commerce being an important component. We've got an exciting set of brand representatives here. They're extremely diverse, so it's going to be yeah. So I look forward to the discussion and for them to share insights over the next about 40 minutes odd. And if anyone has questions at the end, please feel free. We'll take them. So I'd like to introduce them one by one here. And we can start with Hari here, representing Raymond's. And would love for him to share the phygital and the omni experience of the brand and what learnings are for all of us here.
Thank you. Essentially, phygital, digital, we have different hype cycles cutting across. So now I think the key currency is now phygital. So phygital, essentially, if we talk about it, it's been across 2 or 3 phases now. So the hype phases are just boiling down, and COVID had somehow crystallized this whole scenario today. So that's an interesting factor that comes out of the blue. Well, what has now happened now is that, we have stores, we have front ends, we have different applications, we have websites, all of them hyper-converge. So we have got, tons and tons of data across to understand how a customer works across, what is his buying pattern, what kind of analysis he does about. But ultimately, what really happens is that once you take it from the digital, you have to converge it down into a physical end. Otherwise, the convergence does not happen, the sale does not happen. And whatever happens, it happens at different demarcation, different segmentation levels. So that's where it stands, at least for the fashion industry. And it's almost same for all other industries too, as far as I think of. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for that quick input. At this point, I'd like to bring in Jitendra Joshi, representing Ambab, more from the tech enablement side of it. So Jitendra, you must be hearing from a lot of brands of what the requirements are. A lot of them probably just have that desire or the want to go omni-channel as a buzzword. And we were discussing briefly in the pre-session here that in India, a lot of omni-channel isn't as much omni-experience as it is omni-fulfillment. And you were mentioning about convergence of the back end and the front end. Can you please share your views on that?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. So I represent a technology company who enables retailers and brands to go online and try to get maximum out of unlocking the potential. What we have seen in 2019 till 2020, there were 2 different businesses brands were thinking of. It was online business and it was offline business. Suddenly, March to 2020, and say rather than March and April, everybody was talking about only online. After the first wave, it was O2O. Offline to online and reverse also, online to offline. And where everybody was thinking about the investment, they started putting a lot of money onto it. So it started with the front-end engineering where they started saying that, okay, can somebody buy online, pick up offline? Click and collect was something every brand wanted to do, and they wanted to do overnight without actually understanding that they don't have the infrastructure for the click and collect. So we have to actually kind of tell them that, okay, first build the infrastructure, because it's going to be a bad experience if you provide without the infrastructure. That's where what we have seen in last 6 months, the people who were thinking about investment has actually started doing the investment and having the experience of going online, offline to online. Same time, a lot of brands who are looking future, they have also started understanding, saying that they have to do the back-end integration with the suppliers, because they wanted to ensure that the inventory which is lying in the store needs to be moved very fast to the consumer. So when you go offline to online, but if your back-end also is not equipped with that, then it becomes a problem. So that was the experience for us, and that's going to continue what we feel in next at least couple of years, till the time it matures enough to have a next level of disruption.
Thanks. So thanks for that. I'd like to bring in Priyanka here at this point, I think representing an iconic set of brands through Bestseller. You've had a probably different set of experiences with your brands, especially fashion, fast fashion, retail. How has omni-channel, phygital or convergence panned out in your parlance? Uh, Also, there's a concept of the customer demography and the age group for the set of brands you represent being omni first as well. Uh, you probably have a different challenge with omni in the marketplaces concept, apart from the offline. So you've got strong offline, you've got strong marketplace, and strong own D2C as well. So if you could just share some of your thoughts there.
Sure. So the journey for us actually began much earlier than the pandemic happened, actually. And we started the phygital journey a few years back. We started with our own websites. And moving onwards, and I mean, definitely there was some issues in terms of fulfillment and stores getting shut and all that due to pandemic. That journey kind of restarted after the stores opened up. For Marketplace, we started this journey last year in December with Myntra being our first partner. And we have seen immense traction coming in from our partner. The kind of sale we have seen is, it's very good, and that we also actually have tried to optimize on the offering which we are giving to the customer, right? The kind of customers are coming to our brands are looking for freshness, which they are getting through their omni-channel experience. So that is helping the brands to cater to the customers who are looking for freshness from our brand, and not just maybe old stock or very sharply priced products. So that is how the journey has been for us. And with going forward, we are planning to launch our Omni with other partners as well. So we have very aggressive plan as far as the Omni channel is concerned for both our partner portals as well as the captive business, yes.
Can I please bring in our next panelist here? I think you represent Malabar Golds and Diamonds, Mr. Motwani. Sorry, we don't have him here. So Praveen Shirkande, sorry that. Aditya Birla. So from your perspective, if you could please add in terms of a lot of legacy brands, a lot of offline retail as well, where in the journey do you see the phygital or the phygital retail convergence?
Yeah, as you said, we are a traditional retailer for a long time, and been in the iconic brands like Pantaloons, Louis Philippe, Van Heusen, and so on. Clearly, the pandemic was an inflection point where which gave that push to online, and for brands like us, which still large part of our market was still offline, it was a big push to move online. And immediate priority, of course, was to do supply chain, as one of my predecessors was saying, that to just enable stores for omni-channel, being able to fulfill online from the store inventory. And that's something which we ended up starting with and did about 1,000 stores in a few months. The customer part of it is what is today, I think, still evolving. The first steps of having a common loyalty across online, offline, having common order tracking, invoicing, and so on, the back-end systems are getting done. But the front-end customer experience, when it comes to, let's say, engaging with customers, it is, for us, it's omnichannel has been the first step that we did, that we moved towards engaging with customers irrespective of whether they are online or offline. It's a common way that we engage with them. And that is, again, a mix of digital and physical channels. The change in the store, I think, as you were asking earlier, I think it's still early days. We would see a lot more automation where the customer journey would be seamless across online and offline. We have done some experiments with buy online, ship from store, doing hyper-local deliveries, using certain delivery channels, what, let's say, the Zomato, Swiggy's use. But I think it's still early days and it will evolve. So the entire phygital experience for the customer, where it's a seamless online, offline, is a journey that we are on. I would say that is something that will evolve over the next several months,
Sure, sure. Thanks for your inputs. Manoj, in sequence here, so representing Myntra as one of the engineering leads, Myntra brings in a lot of disruption when it comes to the tech space and especially in fashion, obviously. Where are you in that? How are you driving it? We do hear a lot in media as well about brands like Mango, H&M, a lot of them actually being completely omni-channel and Myntra supporting it. And I think with marketplaces, there's also the challenge that brands feel that how do we manage the reverse logistics around it? You also were mentioning some of these. If you can just shed some light, please.
Sure. Hello. So I'm like, when it comes to omni-channel, I'll just touch upon what omni-channel basically means. I think we are in a very, very nascent stage of omni-channel at this point in time. I'm like, I'll basically take use of an anecdote when I basically explain what omni-channel means. I'm like, in childhood, many of us would have played a game where you go and speak a phrase in the ears of another person, and by the time it basically ends up at the end of the line, the meaning of that phrase has already changed. And that is what I'm like, shopping basically means. That's how I look at shopping. So customer has a desire that he or she basically gets when he is looking at maybe an ad, maybe a movie or something. And then by the time he actually or she actually has shopped the product, the whole meaning of what he or she wanted has changed by that time. Now, for me, omni-channel basically means that how do I ensure that I am present, or we as a brand are present at every step of the customer's journey, right? Ready to capture when the desire is basically developed in the customer. Can I be available with the customer where he wants it, when he wants it, and as he wants it? If you basically crack it, you have basically cracked omni-channel, and there is a lot more that needs to be done. I'm like, we are, and other than this, I think as you touched upon, I'm like logistics and how do we basically look at omni-channel, I think the other part of omni-channel is also about empathy. I'm like, how do we basically empathize with the customer need? I'm like, empathy is not just about being polite, speaking nicely to a person. It's also about being proactive, being predictive, and connected experience sits at the center of it. How do you basically enable the same experience that a customer wants across all the channels, be it physical, be it D2C, be it marketplace, and it needs to apply to each and every aspect of it. And I feel marketplace is right at the spot to enable each of these to the brands. So that's how I basically look at omni-channel.
Excellent. Thanks for that perspective from a completely online marketplace perspective. I'd like to bring in Kashyap, please. I think representing Pepperfry there, I remember from very early days, one of the earliest and most aggressive adopters in the plan itself of Phygital, experience zones. We've all seen them, gone into stores, had touchscreens there when it was new and novel as a concept. I'm sure that has emerged and grown with this movement here in the market. I'm sure everyone would love to hear about how Pepperfry thinks about it and where it is now.
Sure. So I think, so if you don't mind, I'll give a little bit of a history. So we started as a purely online company. So we had a website first, then we developed a mobile site, then we developed an app, and we never at any point in time thought that we would have like a physical, chain of stores. And that was just our starting point. But really, when you're on the journey of building an organization, what you think initially is not really cast in stone. You react to the market, you react to the business problems, you try to grow and you find new solutions. There was a time when we found ourselves 2-3 years into our existence, where we realized, just looking at analytics, that we were not really selling larger items. Okay, we were selling a lot of items below 5,000, 10,000 rupees. We were selling a lot of smaller furniture items. And when I'm speaking now, I'm keeping kind of furniture as the center of what we do. We also do a lot of other home products like furnishings, lamps and lighting, kitchen items, etc. But I'm just going to kind of ignore that for a while and just focus on furniture as a category. And we realized that we weren't really selling the bigger ticket items. And, you know, just whether you call it common sense or intuition or just pure, you know, trial and error, we said, okay, let's open a couple of stores and see what happens. And we did that, and then we realized that once we opened those stores, we were able to influence people a lot more in terms of them buying sofa sets and dining sets and wardrobes, items worth 50,000, 80,000, you know, from us. It's not as if, again, when I say this, it's not as if we weren't selling higher ticket items in a purely digital format. It's just that we didn't feel that the proportion was right. So we opened a couple of stores, saw some success. We first opened stores way back in 2015. And we've been in business since 2012. So in our third year, we opened it. Today, we have 105 stores. About 50% of them are owned by us and operated by us, and 50% are franchisee owned. And it's been kind of a journey, you know, from one store in 2015 to 100 stores in 2021. And today, about 35–40% of our business comes from our stores. So 100% online initially. Today we are 65% online and 35–40% from the store. So both are very, very important channels for us. They're not concepts. They're not something that we are experimenting with. They're not something that the pandemic made us do. We're kind of truly digital, online, and truly physical, just because of the nature of our categories, the kind of products that we do. One of the other things that we noticed was that the customer is the same. So when a customer is ready to buy a couple of chairs, maybe for their balcony at 6,000 rupees each or 8,000 rupees each, they're very easily able to take that decision online, but they want to replace their sofa set and spend ₹1,00,000 rupees. Then they need a lot more hand-holding. They need a lot more experience. They need a lot more consulting. And that happens in the stores. Okay. We would love to replicate it digitally if we could, with AR and VR and chatbots and conversational commerce and all of that stuff. And we have not given up on it, and we will do it. We will execute to it, because that is part of the future. The future will have all of those elements. But as we were looking to grow business between 2015 and 2020, and these technologies don't have commercially applicable scale and pricing, we needed to use more conventional methods like physical stores to make that happen. So that's why we went down that route. Today, you know, a lot of people say, hey, if you have stores and if you have digital, you're just multi-channel and you're not omni-channel. You know, what's omni-channel about your whole experience? So I think the couple of things, and to be honest, we are not the gold standard in anything that we do. It's about learning and, you know, figuring out solutions as we go around. But some things are common. For example, our entire post-sales, post-transaction customer experience is common, whether you buy online or in the store, because we follow the same supply chain. We control our supply chain end-to-end, from the manufacturer's location to the customer's doorstep and assembly and delivery. And we provide the same kind of experience across online and offline. We recently started using some of the other large, we ourselves are a marketplace. We have about 600–700 furniture brands selling on our platform. But we ourselves, some of our private labels, we started putting them on some of the other larger platforms. So we are now present on a few marketplaces, very, very small, 0.0001% comes from marketplace. Like I said, rest of it is our own digital, 65% is our own digital platforms. But the fulfillment experience across all of them is common. We control it end-to-end. Customer can expect the same thing whether they buy online or offline. The other elements where I like to think they're omni-channel is if you go to our app or our website, on every single page, if there is a studio within 20 kilometers of you know, where you're located based on your geo, that address of the studio will flash on your on that item page. You're looking at a particular bed or a wardrobe, you will know, you can take decision online, you can look at the dozen odd images, you can potentially look at a video, you can look at a 3D model, you can read the spec sheet, you still have questions, you know. And every single page will have the address of the nearest store. We have 104 stores across the country, across 40 cities. So we're well covered. In a city like Bombay, we have 15. City like Bangalore, we have 15. So, you know, there is something within 4 to 5 kilometers of, in larger markets, you know, there's something within 4 or 5 kilometers of where you're sitting. So there's an option to go and look at it. In smaller markets, maybe you have to travel 10, 15 kilometers. So at every point in time, we do provide that optionality for people to go and experience the physical location, especially, and people exercise that, you know, especially for larger products. So we find that of all the people who walk into our, you know, 100-odd stores, most of them have visited the website already. They've already done some research, they've looked at products, they've done some comparison shopping, and they come into the store when they're slightly down in the funnel, when they have more evolved questions, when they want to understand pricing options a little bit better, and so on and so forth. So to that extent, both the platforms are, you know, kind of symbiotic. They don't exist independent. That's why I'm calling it omni-channel and not multi-channel, because there is information gathering happening at different stages of the funnel across the different formats. So that's one thing. Obviously, we nudge people for the bigger items. They exercise that. They go to the studio. They have those conversations. The other point I want to mention is that of all the orders placed within the studio, and we track that obviously because we know that thing, 95% of the items are placed for items on the catalog which are not on the floor. Okay. So people come into the studio, they spend time, they ask questions, they get educated about the policies, about the brand, about everything. They look at options, but 95% of the time they buy something that's not in the store but actually is on the catalog. Okay. So it's really a multiplier for us. It's a point of sale, but what we are selling is not the 200 items in the store, but the 1.5 lakh items that are there on the digital catalog. So in my mind, the fact that people, you know, experience us across both kinds of formats and also buy across both kind of formats, and it doesn't necessarily limit them that just because they're in the store, they don't buy from the store. They buy from the catalog while they are in the store. So to that extent, I think those are the two things why I think, like I said, the common experience, the common fulfillment experience, and the fact that there's such a symbiotic relationship between the digital platforms and the physical platform is why I think, you know, why I call it omni-channel. There are a couple of other things that we do to kind of enable, you know, sales growth. So for example, in our category, what happens is, you know, people buy furniture for different reasons. Sometimes they're replacing a broken item or a worn out item. Sometimes maybe they're adding 1 or 2 items to their already 20 pieces of furniture in their house. Sometimes they're doing up their entire home. They're transferred or they buy a new house. They're buying 50 items or 30 items at one go. So a large part, almost 50% of the furniture transactions by value, okay, happen when a significant life event like a house shifting, house buying, getting married, childbirth, etc. happen. Typically, 50 to 60% of the value of the transactions happen closely associated with the life event. And typically, then they're buying 4 items, 5 items or more. On the digital platform, we actually are very easily able to track those signals. When customers browse multiple product categories across multiple you know, product groups, etc., we know that they're not looking for 1 or 2 items, but they're looking for maybe a half a dozen or a dozen items. When people are looking for certain types of, when they're buying many lamps, especially wall lamps or ceiling lamps, we get to know again that they're potentially in the process of moving into a new house or you know, doing up their home. So we are able to capture that information for logged in users. We know who they are, we have their email ID, we have their phone number. We're able to pass that information into our you know, studio setup, where we have you know, a telecalling video-based sales support process. And those people kind of utilize the digital signals to understand that these people are doing extensive problem solving, just in terms of consumer behavior terms. You're not buying one item, you're buying a half a dozen items. You need consulting, you potentially need a financial package, you need additional kind of guidance. So those signals are automatically picked up from the digital platform, passed on to maybe our physical platform, but maybe even an intermediate platform like a video buying service, where people get that information, we send them an email, we ask them if you want to be contacted, we set up telephone appointments or appointments in the store, we are able to ask them to come down to consult them. And we are typically therefore able to capture digital signals to upgrade customers in the physical world. So that's just an example, one of the examples of what we do. Obviously, all of this is first-party data, our own data, customers browsing on our own site, giving us signals about what kind of problem they are trying to solve, what kind of purchase they are trying to make. Us understanding that some of them will be better fulfilled in a physical world, and therefore providing them that opportunity, proactively reaching out to them to kind of close the loop with them, etc.
Right.
So I think that's really the opportunity that exists in the whole omni-channel world. That's just one example of what I'd like to talk about.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks a ton. Allow me, sorry to bring you in really late, the sequence of things, but Kunal, your views from a being human perspective, obviously you also have a youth-based customer, a strong product. How do you see the customer experience and Phygital panning out from your perspective?
Thanks, Naveen. Thanks, PRCT, for having all of us together after such a long time. To start off with, we are all talking about digital, going omni in the way. But first, what we need to understand is, first we need to take customer into the center and say, does our customer really want to go digital? Does it really want to go omni? Does it really want to go all these things that we're talking about? In some of the cases, your customer may not need all these things, and then you're spending a lot of your energy in developing technology that you don't want at the end of the day. Fortunately for us, the customers under TG that we target, they want all these things. The customer that we look at, the Gen Z, the millennials so-called, look at two things. One is ease of purchase, that they need options. And second is they want solutions. Earlier were gone are the days when if there's an event, you go out and shop. The customer of today wants that the platform should give you a recommendation that this is what you should use. They know this. And so we are approaching Omni from two perspectives. One is having a platform, which is a fulfillment platform, and a customer can interact between my various channels. We are not only limiting ourselves to our D2C or to our EBOs or for that matter. We are evaluating platforms where a customer can interact with us to various touch points. So whether it's a large format stores, whether it's the MBO, whether it's the marketplaces, all those put together. Any touch point that the consumer can look at, he can interact with us. That's one, and that's truly Omni that we think of from that perspective. And I think so going forward, for a company like us, Omni is going to be a bare necessity. Because look at a scenario, and just give an example of you go to a local Kirana store today and you look at them. If they don't have an UPI payment, you might not step into it because you think UPI is a must to have. So consumer of tomorrow is going to say Omni is a must to have, you need to have those. So it's a tool. It's not and everybody needs to have those for survival. So it's not a strategic advantage that you have. You might have it now, but 2 or 3 years down the line, it's not going to be a strategic advantage to you. So what you need is a single view of customer, which is the second part that I'm talking about, of how do you give a recommendations to those guys. So if I know him very well from my Omni platform, that's when I can give him recommendations. That's when I can provide him solutions. And that's what we at Human we are trying to look at from a holistic angle. So we give him a point of sales, enablement, but we also give him solutions from the analytics that we do. And that's how we are looking at it. Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks for the first round of detailed insights. I think we've probably just got 9-10 minutes to go. We'll probably break the monotony and sequence and just ask a quick question each for about 1.5 minutes. I'll take Priyanka and her thought on the availability, the selection, and the offering. I remember you mentioning that how an Omni or a Phygital even completely reorients that as an opportunity for the consumer. So if you could just share some thoughts on that with the group.
Sure. So For us, I think the entire pandemic, how it changed customer behavior was, our learning was that, you know, the customers, firstly, obviously, they moved from offline to online channel for fulfilling their demand. And secondly, they wanted the time, they wanted the products on time. So hence, being available, being your products available very close to the customer became very important. That could only happen if we have omni-channel in place. So we identified this, and the problem it is solving is that you know, the products are available for the customers to buy. They do not have, they're able to access the inventory, which is probably lying 700 or 2,000 kilometers away from them, and even in fact just 5 kilometers away from them. So that's the kind of offering you know, we are able to give to our customers through omni-channel experience. In apparel especially, we do face a lot of size stock out issues. So this also kind of gets catered through omni-channel. I think it's a win-win for both. It's win-win for the brands as well as the customer. We are able to give better experience to the customer, and from the brand's perspective, we are able to cut on our cost and you know, kind of give a better experience to our customers and increase the customer retention and repeat rate.
Great, so a lot of plus points for the phygital side on the customer standpoint. I'd also like to bring in Praveenji here. In terms of, you know, we talked about iconic legacy brands, a lot of offline heaviness, and just wanted to understand, has there been any training issues or any thoughts of cannibalization in terms of offline versus online, and how do we deal with that?
No, I don't think it's, you should think of it as cannibalization. It's, I mean, a store is a fulfillment center for a walk-in customer and for an online customer. I think that's the mindset change that needs to happen. In terms of training and in a store to support both channels, yes, it's a big change for a store staff who are primarily used to dealing with walk-in customers. Moving them towards fulfilling online orders was a major training challenge. We went through it during the pandemic, and fortunately that was a period when the footfall was low, so it was a good time in a way to get stores up to speed. I think as the traffic comes back into stores, as the footfall comes back, we're going to have to reimagine our models of engaging with customers in store. And how do you ensure that a walk-in customer gets priority as well as it doesn't affect your fulfillment of online orders? That's something will evolve in terms of technology available in the stores, in the hands of the store staff, in the supply chain within the store, between back office, front office, and so on. And those are the areas where I think the development of omnichannel will go further to make this completely seamless, both for the customer and for the staff that's servicing from a store.
Got it. Thanks. Thanks for that insight. So I'd like to bring in Manoj for a moment here. So Myntra, like one of the leading marketplaces, definitely sets the benchmark when it comes to the consumer experience. You talked about empathy and a lot of great stuff there. Is handling the reverse process or returns exchanges little more tricky in a omni scenario than in a pure play marketplace scenario?
I would not say that. I'm like, you need to solve the problem statement the way it comes to you. I'm like, in case of a omni, I'm like, how do you basically represent a store as a warehouse, and how do you basically fulfill it? Seamlessly is important, and hence comes technology along with it. How do you basically provide technology to enable the store, to ensure that they are able to handle the package the way you would basically handle as a marketplace? And there comes uniformity. And hence we basically also provide a lot of technology and we empower our partners along with us. But then I'm like, more than that, I'm like, since we are speaking of empathy, we are speaking of customer experience, I'm like, it's the core value of Myntra also. And what we need to understand is we need to solve the problem statement that is actually there. You need to understand the customer need and be able to solve it. I'm like, I'll take few examples of how we have been basically doing it. See, at the end of the day, when it comes to the experience of a customer, you need to bring the customer experience as close to real life as possible. You need to provide the offline experience to the customer when they are shopping online. Now, I'm like, and it needs to be very, very subtle. I'm like, sometimes while doing it, we basically go overboard, we become much more invasive. Now, to give some examples, we actually brought in open-ended exchange. It helps the customer's experience and also solves for a lot of our partners' issue, saying that, hey, as a customer, when I am offline, I can go to a store, I purchased a t-shirt. I can go to the store, I can return the t-shirt, and I can take back jeans from him. But then it's not possible online. Most of the marketplaces allow you to just change the size of the t-shirt. We said, why? Sure. Why that? If you are able to change a t-shirt, you don't want it, I need to provide my customer with enough flexibility to be able to shop for whatever they want. And hence we basically said, not only exchanges, we need to basically bring in open-ended exchanges for our customer. Sure. Similarly, alteration. Alteration is a great example where we enabled alteration for our customers. Said that, hey, if you go offline, you purchase a product, you can basically get it altered. So you don't need to return me. Sure. You can get it altered by us. We will get it altered. And that's how we basically take care of both customer experience and our partners' experience and their problem statements in terms of return logistics.
Thank you so much for that. Last couple of minutes, sorry, only have time enough for one last word from Hari. I saw a lot of passion when you were talking about Phygital and the data integrity and the behavior and the segmentation. As last thoughts to the group, I would love for you to share some light on that, please.
See, since we cut across into a new hype cycle, the whole logic is that, omnichannel is a given. So there is nothing extraordinary about it. The point is unification of experience on whatever data standards you have. So that's where the, intrinsic data, you have to capture it across from different sites, make some analysis out of it. Otherwise, it's garbage in and garbage out. The whole logic is to understand the data, customize it, and give a unique experience to the customer, be it at your shop, be it to her profile, and then, so you can set on to guiding it across. So the next set of technology is not omni-channel, it's not anything, it's wearable technology. That's where I'm going to personalize your information more and more. Instead of you pushing it via mobile, visiting onto a site, no, it's just not customized. At least in the fashion profile, I need to understand your psyche, I need to understand your body dimensions, and then I go on, and then I advise you, and then I capture you. That's what we call sentiment engineering. So that's the next stage, and that's how I hope it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone. We're just running out of time here. Would love to thank the time from our panelists and great insights. Also the opportunity for PRC to have us all here. Yeah, thanks a ton.